I think the public understands that we are a very valuable industry, that much of what is going to be used to clean up the mess and to rebuild what has been damaged is going to be done with products that originate right here in the chemical industry in Louisiana. And that's what makes the essentiality of this industry important. And it's what makes keeping these plants running very important too.
Thanks for the invitation to be with you today. Well, when John Hightower invited me, we decided that I would talk about the status of Louisiana's chemical industry, its growth prospects, and some of the opportunities and the challenges that it faces. Nature threw us a cruel curveball in the form of a millennial storm. And I'd like to use my time with you today to talk about how this disaster has affected the employees at many of our plants, how it has affected the operations at those plants, and how we expect this thing to go forward. First of all, I want to thank all of the emergency responders for their efforts. The help they extended to save people, extraordinary. Selfless contributions of time and talent and treasure to save lives and to ameliorate the human misery caused by the Great Flood of 2016. These efforts, I must remind you, are ongoing in parishes below East Baton Rouge where there is still standing water. I also want to thank the employees of our plants for riding out the storm, for operating these facilities safely, and then for volunteering in teams to assist their co-workers who were severely impacted. And I also want to acknowledge the media for your outstanding public service in informing the public as this disaster evolved and in your continuing role as the response continues and the recovery begins. I used to do what you do. I covered Hurricane Betsy in 1965 as a radio reporter, and I covered Hurricane Camille in 1969 as a television anchor and reporter. And I have a great appreciation for the challenges that you have faced and the quality of work that you have done. Here are a few areas I'd like to cover today and then take any questions that you might have. First of all, the impact of the storm on our employees and our facilities. Louisiana chemical manufacturing is a $62 billion business in Louisiana. Only Texas and California have more chemical manufacturing output than we do here in Louisiana. We have 65 companies that are members of the Louisiana Chemical Association. They employ 30,000 men and women, full-time, 24/7. Now, most of these employees are employees of the companies themselves, but there is also a strong contingent of what we call nested or embedded contract employees. These are men and women who work at the plants for various contractors, but who are there day in and day out. So we count our nested employees, our embedded contractor employees, in the 30,000 that we count as employees in the chemical manufacturing industry in Louisiana. Now, about 40 of our 65 companies operate plants in East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Iberville, Ascension, and St. James parishes, all parishes that have been affected by the storm. Around 20,000 employees work at these facilities. So if you want to think of it in percentages, about 60% of our member companies, some of which operate multiple plants along the river, and about 2/3 of our state's chemical manufacturing employees live in those 5 parishes. A very significant number of plant workers have been severely impacted by the storm and need temporary housing. The numbers vary according to plant site, some as low as 5, some 20%, some plant sites as many as 50% of employees having water taking on water, and perhaps needing temporary housing, depending on whether they can move in with family, friends, or the like. If you take the 20,000 men and women along the river and simply say 5% of them were seriously impacted, you're dealing with 1,000 men and women who operate our plants. So a very significant number of our employees have been impacted. And we are trying to compile as accurate numbers as we can to see how many of these employees will need an extended variety of temporary housing. And we are hoping, after we submit this data to both the state and the federal government, that temporary housing will soon be available. This is particularly important because, unlike Katrina, our plant operations were not severely affected, with perhaps only one minor exception, and it was a brief one. Electrical service was not interrupted, as it was in Katrina. Natural gas supplies were not shut off, as they were in Katrina. Business supply chains, rail, barge, and truck transportation were not severely delayed, as they were in Katrina. Our plants are continuing to operate, while many were simply shut down during Katrina because of the impediments that I've just mentioned. So our major challenge is to get temporary housing for those employees who cannot find a home and who need that kind of stability so that they can begin restoring their lives and continue to work productively and safely at our plants. So in order to help address these employee issues, many of our plants up and down the river have implemented employee assistance programs. I'll give you just a few of those from a survey that we have done just in the last few hours. Paid off time to tend to urgent matters, cleaning and recovery supplies, personal protection equipment, temporary housing in hotels, temporary transportation, financial assistance, counseling, rental car assistance, salary continuation while away, and volunteer crews from the plants to help support the home scene, helping strip the sheetrock and stabilize the homes. Our plants are also deeply involved in community assistance. Some companies have already made, and many are in the process of considering significant contributions to community relief agencies, such as the American Red Cross, the Capital Area United Way, the Food Bank, and other community assistance organizations. One of the other things that our industry is providing, and it's one of the reasons that we consider it a critical infrastructure industry, is many of the products that are going to be used to rebuild people's lives and to restore their homes are products of chemical manufacturing, and many of them originate right here in Louisiana. If you can name it, chemical manufacturing helped make it. We're going to have a handout a little later as you leave, but I want to highlight some of these things. Just in the cleanup alone, household and commercial bleaches, algicides and bactericides, portable water purification, surface disinfectants, sanitizers and cleaners, deodorants, scrub brush bristles, utility rubber gloves and boots, safety glasses, respirators and masks, bug sprays and insect repellents. None of these things happen without the business of chemistry. And as we rebuild, something as simple as a caulking compound or a sealant, paints and varnishes, water repellent coatings, water treatment and water resistant polymers and building materials, glue for metals, glass and ceramics, wall and roof insulation, electrical insulation, termite management systems, yes, replacing the chemical barriers to termites even, roofing materials, vinyl, floor coverings, molding strips, pipes, and plumbing, windows and door frames, gaskets and hoses, carpet and carpet backing. Those are just a few of the products of chemistry that are going to be put to work to help repair the lives and to restore the homes of not just the employees of the industry, but of their friends and of their families that have suffered so terribly in this disaster. One of the ongoing issues that I think we have to manage is that we have a partner association called the Louisiana Chemical Industry Alliance. It consists of over 850 contractors and maintenance companies and suppliers and vendors, people who do business with the chemical industry. If you picture a chemical plant as an aircraft carrier, and then you picture the rest of the fleet, the Louisiana Chemical Industry Alliance represents the boats of the fleet. No aircraft carrier, no fleet. No boats of the fleet, no aircraft carrier. So they are our partners in business. And what we are going to have to deal with is that some of our contractors are going to have difficulties in terms of their own employees who have also been flooded out. And so there may be some work along the river that might have to be phased differently, that might have been planned early on, but now has to be looked at in terms of the new normal, the new reality, when so many of these employees lived in the floodplain and now are challenged in terms of when and how to get to work. So that's going to be an ongoing challenge that we're going to be working with our contractors and our maintenance people on for, I think, the long haul, because I don't think we're going to get out of this situation quickly.
Well, the message is a significant number of our Louisiana chemical industry employees and the contractors that do work at these plants, a significant number have been impacted. And the plants are doing everything they can to ameliorate the impacts of the flood, to bring these people back to work. There are employee assistance programs that have been implemented. There's counseling, there's assistance with respect to temporary housing. And one of the things that we are emphasizing is that there are 20,000 chemical industry employees in just the 5 parishes that were most affected. If only 5% of that 20,000 was impacted, then that's 1,000 employees right there. So we're working with the federal government to see whether we can get some temporary housing for these employees so that as they rebuild their lives, they have a place to stay and continue to have a place to work at our plants.
How have the plants been impacted by the storm?
Well, production-wise, they have continued to operate. But people-wise, many of their people have been impacted. Now, how many have been impacted to the point of being totally destroyed is one thing. How many fetching water might be another one. We've had as many as half of our plants report that some 20 to 30 to 40% of their employees have been affected. So it depends on the plant, and it depends on the severity. What we're trying to get a handle on from the plants right now, how many of those employees affected will need long-term housing so that they can repair their homes and move back in. That's what we're working with the government on right now. So.